Herzlich willkommen, good morning, welcome to stunning Königssee in Bavaria. We're at the Deutsche Post Ice Arena for the third day of competition, the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships 2017. Good morning, everybody. Wherever you are, thank you for joining us as we get into the deciding day of action in the two-man bobsleigh competition. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me John Morgan, and John, our hot favourite, is the man who leads the field, but behind him anything might happen.
Yeah, Lochner and Bloom here, they won this event 3 weeks ago, but Lochner is a little ailing. He's got some congestive problems that sort of affects his start time, so he's not the force he was 3 weeks ago, but he's in a bronze medal position. This is his hometown and a lot of family and support for him. How about these two, Justin Kripps, Jesse Lumsden? Well, Kripps won this event 2 years ago, the World Cup. He was bronze medaled last year. He hasn't done anything this year. He's had a dismal season. But yesterday, out of nowhere, even after somebody stole his runners, he's in second place. Everybody's chasing this guy, Francisco Friedrich, Thorsten Margus. They've won 3 consecutive world championships. Only one other person has won this many. It's Eugenio Monti. He won 5 world championships. Today, Friedrich and Margus could get one step closer to challenging the legendary Eugenio Monti. And wow, what a day it's going to be. Look at the weather, Martin.
It is absolutely stunning. Now, Francesco Friedrich with a half-second advantage, but behind him, look how close the margins are. We bandy around 3 or 4 hundredths of a second as being a big margin. It really isn't. Nick Poloniato of Canada, an astonishing 4th place overnight. What can he do? And Stephen Holcomb starts in the 30s in the field, is in 7th position. Bert Hefti has finally come good, 10th place for him, ahead of Chris Spring and Rico Peter. But the Russians are in trouble. Alexei Stulnev in 14th position, and their lead driver, Alexander Kasjanov, crashed his sled, broke it in training. He's had to take one of the girls' sleds, and that leaves him 100th out of the top 20 in 21st place. Maybe Bradley Hall, maybe Nick Cunningham might also have a shot at a top 20 run, but behind them, pretty much everybody is battling for the minor positions. The field of 36 all go in the third heat, and then we will cut to the fastest 20. Air temperature hovering around +2, ice minus 0.5. Control steel is a 4-degree steel, so they've got plus or minus 2 degrees from that their runners have to be within. And there is your leader. Francesco Friedrich and Thorsten Margus have won 3 straight two-man world titles, and this has all the hallmarks of being their 4th. The field goes in the order of their standing, so the fastest guy gets the best ice and goes first, all the way down through our 36-strong field until we can till we can produce the top 20 to go through into the final heat. There is your start list, 36 sleds to get through, and hovering around the top 20, there is a lot of interest as well. Overnight leader in the two-man bobsleigh competition, Francesco Friedrich and Thorsten Margus. The defending 3-time champions get day 2 underway.
A couple of decathletes start the field off, probably 15 or 16. And the one on the back here, Thorsten Margus, he's a 7,800+ point scorer. He's the most decorated decathlete in the field, and these two here are chasing history. It's their race to lose. He really has to start making some mistakes to give anybody else a chance. This could also be a close to a track record. Well, though they didn't get anywhere near it in the start, which they told me they were going to do.
Well, it's very fast ice this morning. It's been soft and soggy for the last couple of days, but Friedrich is looking absolutely electrifying.
This is looking pretty good. This is a fast track. This could be track record. We're going to find out here real quick.
Way quicker than we've been before.
No, 49.17.
500ths away.
Yesterday he missed it by 300ths. Today 500ths. So he's 49.15, 49.45, 49.17. There's our rabbit. It happens to be the best in the field. One more heat for history. The only one other person has won more than 3 in a row, and that's Monty. He could put himself to challenge that position here in Ecovon. Looks like he got a little high there. And watch the exit into a graveyard section of the track, the uphill section, that little bit of a drift. Pretty tough to be critical of anything that this guy has done in 3 runs.
Yeah, he's given himself a very handy advantage now. Can the second place driver, Justin Kripps, close down in any way? A little bit of Boba Fett going on there, Justin Kripps' stance. The Canadians 2nd and 4th after day 1. A real turnaround in their form. They're peaking at just the right time with Jesse Lumsden behind him. Kripps, a winner on this track as a driver 4 years ago. Lumsden as a brakeman 5 years ago behind Lyndon Rush.
Canadians like this track. Their teammate Pierre Lutters won the gold medal here in 2004 World Championships. So the Canadians got a lot of great history on this track. 485, well, pretty similar to their starts. They've had 44, 45, 45. The story of the week, though, the Canadians lost their race runners, which he won here on 2 years ago. He lost them on Friday here on top of the track. But I don't think it was bad because he's flying. He hasn't had heats like this since last year.
Canadians coaches were laughing this morning when I suggested that actually Nick Poloniato's performance suggested that he'd stolen Kripps' runners for himself. But Justin Kripps and Nick Poloniato in the top 2. Yesterday, Kaylee Humphries took silver. Alicia Rissling took 6th for Canada in her first World Championships on this track. Kripps looking to underline the silver medal position, 49.43. That's quicker than he's produced in either of yesterday's 2 runs.
Nothing like Friedrich's time, though.
Well, Friedrich's second heat yesterday, he did a 49.15 and a 45 in the second heat. And that shows how much the track slowed yesterday. And that's a good solid run from Justin Kripps.
A little late here, though, on the exit of Kreisel, down into the danger zone and the labyrinths, and he was a little late. Look at the back right runners, airborne. Danger, loss of time there.
So there is Justin Kripps. And third up, Johannes Lochner. Now, he really is the local hero, born and bred in Berchtesgaden. His father still lives here. The family are at the track. He is a proper Königssee Bavarian. Joshua Bloom, his family here. We saw them at dinner the other night, and these guys really in medal contention.
Well, this is moving day, like at a golf tournament, third heat or third round. This is the 3rd round of bobsledding and the World Championships. He needs to make a move, not a very good start. He's been bogged down by health issues, hasn't allowed him to train. He did not even take training on Wednesday, skipped both runs, only took 1 heat Thursday. This is an athlete operating at about probably 75% of his potential.
His cold is worse than John Morgan's, everybody, so
he's got a little different
struggling. Out of the Kreisel, you'll see the shades are down on a lot of corners on the track. Little to the right as he came down out of the Kreisel, but nicely through the labyrinth. 3rd fastest speed. The ice will hold up nicely for the first 10 or 15 sleds because it was crisp overnight. And he's closing. But no, he loses 0.2 of a second to the leader, and that means he goes further out from Justin Kripps in the silver medal position.
He was 1100ths behind, now he's 1400ths behind, but he got beat by 500ths at the start and was a little sloppy down in that bend away. But again, he's operating 75, 80%. This is not the same athlete that won this race 3 weeks ago. He hasn't been able to train. Right here, this is not perfect. Comes out too early. And he has a lot of friction all the way down this straightaway. 2 hits, 3 hits. And this is pretty good, but he's still skidding, not clean. Peter Hell on the right, long time Berchtesgaden resident. I think a World Championship bronze medalist for West Germany in '78.
Here's perhaps the big story in the top half dozen. Nick Poloniato and Neville Wright of Canada, outperforming their seeding by the most enormous margin. He lies 21st in the World Cup rankings. His best 2-man race this season, 14th and 13th in North America. He lies in 4th place overnight.
47, just 200 slower than yesterday, and 3rd best velocity, so good job by Neville Wright.
Well, Poloniato was handed the Willy Wonka golden ticket. First out of the start shed in soft ice conditions yesterday. Really made
Nice lines.
A great advantage for him. But in January in the race here, his first World Cup race on this track, he was only tied for 24th. That's a 20-place improvement in 3 weeks.
There's been nobody ever has. Watch out! Ooh, you're going to put straight, didn't use hardly any of that labyrinth.
Little wavy through the Kreisel.
But there's been nobody with an improvement like him that I've seen in years at World Championships. If he can hold on for 49.61.
Well, again, faster than anything he produced yesterday. I was talking to Todd Hayes and the Canadian coaches earlier on, and they were saying that the change in the way the runners are examined is what has allowed the Canadians finally to carry speed all the way down the track. That's a technical issue. The runners used to get sanded, and they no longer are.
Well, decent starts. Canadians, all of them have good starts. And Poloniato, the Bishop's University football player, has, wow, come out of nowhere. I mean, any type of a top 10 finish would be awesome. He could finish in the top 5.
And his brakeman Neville Wright, they know they've got a big day today, because chasing them down are the 2 Oscars. Oscars Melbardis and Oscars Kebermanis. Kebermanis was 5th after the first heat. Melbardis just overhauled him by 500ths. And Melbardis 400ths of a second behind Nick Poloniato overnight.
Latvian coaches told me last night, he said, why not Domin Drieskins on the brakes, the longtime bodyguard for Melbardis? Just, you know, Drieskins been around since 2006, done every 2- and 4-man event you could ever think of, and, ooh, look at that. The velocity's not that good, even though they had the second best start. But he just said, you know, this is a stronger combination. He's going to need to nail it. And this was a good nail. 114.3. It's better speed than Poloniato.
Yep, creeping ahead of Poloniato on the split times.
Barely. I don't know. Just getting them right now. They're only 400 separated after the 2 heats. Needs to be perfect. He is. Boy, he's way off the pace.
Yeah, Melbardis is going to struggle. He doesn't catch the Canadian.
Wow.
4th fastest run, but he is still in 5th position by 200.
So he
pulled
got
back 100.
Wow,
No,
still
200s, you're right. He's half the
200s.
gap. Now, when we go into the final 20, in reverse order, Melbardis will go 1 sled before Poloniato, or possibly 2, depending on what Kebermanis does now. So he might have a fractional advantage.
A little early there. It makes him drift to the wrong side. And then here, how's the transition? Well, that's pretty good. Can't criticize anything there, but he didn't have any speed in the bottom.
5 sleds down, 31 still to go in the first heat of the final day of the 2-man. Oh, got to get my teeth sorted out. 2-man bobsleigh World Championships. We've seen Oscars Melbardis. This is Oscars Kebermanis.
Well, he needs low 80s start. And there's the fastest start of the day.
Wow.
And he's 1000ths behind Nick Poloniato.
And his target is going to be Melbardis. Melbardis got in front of him on run 2. Kebermanis was in front on run 1, so now he wants to get back in front of his teammate, because it's that old story. If you can't beat your teammate, you're never going to win anything.
Well, race within a race. We call it 114.9. That's excellent speed. See if he can hold it. Oh, he took a lot of the labyrinths. 72, this is not bad.
72 miles an hour into the Chrysler's the top speed. He was at 71.5. Little skid, long drift there.
This is going to be 3 sleds very close. Second best speed, ducks his head.
Wow, and he's back in front. He's in front of both of them. He picked up 2. He's ahead of Poloniato into 4th place. That is a really big run for Oscars Kebermanis.
Boy, he did too.
And in fact, that is the second quickest trip. That is faster than Justin Kripps. Only Francesco Friedrich has gone faster this morning. That is a huge run.
He's still, though, 1400ths away from Lochner into the 4th run. But, you know, when you start the sled as quick as these guys do, look how early he is here into the Kelstein.
Yeah.
That's going to be somebody the best lines we've seen. Second best speed on the bottom.
Now you're saying he's 1400s behind Lochner. He just outstarted Lochner by 1100s.
Yeah.
So if that happens in the final heat, he'll sit down with only 300s to make up to get a medal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's go.
Talk about moving day. Okay, I've got prickles on the back of my neck already. Stephen Holcomb, Carlo Valdez. Now, if there's a Heinz Ketchup Award for the man who improves most with his drive over the start, Holcomb has got to get it. A 496.
That's his best of the three. He
Wow.
had a 5 flat yesterday. The 31st best start of 36 sleds, and the guy was in 14th place at the end of the first run.
And then the 22nd best start, and they improved with a 5th fastest drive. So he's out driving their starts by a country mile.
And he knows there might not be a better set of eyes and hands on tour than Stephen Holcomb from Park City, Utah. 3-time world champion, once as a 2-man, twice as a 4-man, and of course the Olympic gold medalist, and he has magical eyes and hands in the bottom part of this track. 5th best speed though. I thought he got a better speed than that.
He's not going to catch Mel Bardis. He ties. He does catch Mel Bardis.
So he's into 6th.
Yeah.
So mission accomplished. Pick off one at a time.
Well,
He's
yeah.
only 200s out of 5th.
Hasn't picked anybody off, but Poloniato, Mel Bardis, and Holcomb, 5th and tied 6th, as you say, are 200s apart, those 3 sleds.
Now the track, I think, starts to deteriorate in speed. Holcomb just didn't have very good speed for what he's been doing down here.
We're in an interesting little group, aren't we? Because Holcomb was 400s behind Kebermanis, and 100th behind Holcomb was this man, Great Britain's Bruce Tasker, former brakeman and multiple Olympian. Behind him, Joel Fearon, the man who last summer recorded the 3rd fastest 100 meters ever by a British sprinter. Born in Coventry, now lives at Loughborough, close to the sports centre, training centre there.
They need a big start. They need better than their 485 yesterday. And these are a pair of athletes here, so 483, 484.
These two haven't done much training together.
487. They went the other way. They did not.
3rd fastest speed out of the first
velocity,
corner, though.
Good
That's
sign there.
a really good sign. And Bruce Tasker, there's his coach, Dominic Sherry, in the red hat.
He's always there for all the British sleds.
Yeah, for everybody. He watches the S's like a hawk.
Nice.
That's a good exit as well.
That's nice. He's moved up.
7th on the splits. But don't forget, he was only
speed,
300s, 100th rather behind Holcomb. Little wavy through the Kreisel. It's the speed going away, 70.5 compared to 72 miles an hour top speed. So down on Holcomb by a mile an hour.
I'm down on the track speeds at the bottom. I think the tracks got scratched up. The first 6, 7 sleds had all the best ice. 8th best top speed. 8th best time,
8th at the line,
49.66.
which is where he started the day.
And the coaches are not happy.
And
they were hoping more.
Yeah.
He's fallen back. He lost 1800s to Holcomb on that run. 1700s, right?
Yeah, Holcomb did a 49.49 and a 49.66, and Bruce Tasker shakes his head, so there were driving errors there.
Holcomb competed here in 2004.
Yeah.
Bruce wasn't in the sport then. There's a little bit of difference in experience.
Yeah, he was still in high school.
Yeah. This is...
Well, skid there as he comes
out of that shading,
yeah.
or that Kreisel curve, and then got too much ice here. Look at the back end, back right. Runner, no, that's pretty good. Boy, it's hard to figure out the good, the bad. But you could see the ugly down there, that's for sure. Misha McNeil yesterday. Whoa.
Nico Walther next for Germany with Eric Franke behind him. This is not the most common pairing, but Franke, the fastest of the 2-man brakemen in Walter's team.
Push bar. Uh-oh.
He's focusing on getting himself into the first corner.
56.7. I'm just disappointed in Nico's sort of given up in the 2-man. Doesn't get the starts. The other 2 German athletes do. And he just says, I'm relegated to being a good 4-man like Max Arndt, who was his mentor. Max is here. Max got a 6-month-old baby. He's the defending world champion.
Yes, he is.
Winterberg in 2015. say the last German Formula World champion, because Bartas won
it last year in Eagles, yeah.
This isn't too bad. I think he might go ahead of Tasker.
Yeah, he's been ahead of Bruce right from the start, and he moves up into 8th place.
Yeah,
so yeah, that
700s from Holcomb.
That loose run by Bruce Tasker is going to cost him a spot, and possibly a second one, because he's still 1100s behind Nico Walther. And the next sled, Bert Hefti, was only a couple of hundreds slower than Nico Walther overnight.
So decent run for Nico Walther.
And again, we talk about a couple of hundreds. The women's race yesterday, the winning time, 3 minutes, 24.75 seconds. The margin of victory, 300ths of a second.
So the exit of the S's, you're seeing the best drivers in the world, and now down in the labyrinth, Nico Walther, who was a former luge, probably has more luge trips down the track than he does. Look at the skid. He's going reverse into that take-on. Now a lot of big transition, big pressure, big friction, big loss of speed.
He was a doubles luge junior world champion 2 times. I'm not sure whether he was the front or the back of the luge doubles, whether he was responsible for more of the steering or not. Bert Hefti next up with new boy Michael Quonen, who seems to have revitalized Hefti. When we came here in the World Cup a few weeks ago, Bert Hefti finished 26th.
Good start, 86, 86, and 87, 3 heats. 3rd best velocity, so this break, but he's got us. He's good.
Yeah, he is.
Hefti used to be the best pushing driver on the planet for about a decade.
Well, he too is already ahead of Bruce Tasker, but that big skid might not help him. Now, he had a big skid in the first heat, and yet the Swiss sled still produced good speed at the bottom. Good exit from the Kreisel.
Stuck through there.
Again, he was waving up and down through the Kreisel. Where is he now? He's in 10th position where he started the run. Is he going to move in front of Great Britain?
I think he's close.
And at the line in 10th place, but he's 500s behind.
7 behind, or 6 behind.
Yeah.
No speed.
So, well, a
no speed left in that track.
Turnaround in form for the Swiss. 26th here 3 weeks ago, way off making the cut, and he's in the top 10.
Well, this is why he's still in 10th. Watch this. He tries to feather himself around. Little tap, and watch the skidding. And you know, when you're dealing with hundreds of seconds, how do you estimate what that's worth? I don't know, but it's a lot.
Ugly. Still in the top 10, 1 run to go. So 10 sleds down, 26 to come. Francesco Friedrich extending his half-second advantage to better than 3/4 of a second over Justin Kripps and Johannes Lochner. Canada's Chris Spring, the only Canadian sled out of the top 10. He'll want to turn that around if he can. He was only 300 out of the top 10 overnight. 4.90, just a fraction behind Bert Hefti's start. Hefti is his target, who currently lies in 10th place.
Well, he had a 490 in the first run, 490 in the second run, and a 490 in the third run. That's consistency. Well, let's see if he can find a way to bring this Canadian sled consistently to the bottom.
Clean run down the bend away, cleaner than Bert Hefti's. And he is into 10th place.
Really good speed. And
on the splits, he's already ahead of Hefti. Now he needs a good labyrinth.
This is pretty good.
And he gets a decent run. Exit of the Ecovant, the big long left-hander here will decide it.
Uphill.
Clean exit.
It's going to be close.
Oh, he's dropped behind Hefti after the labyrinth. And at the line, he is in 10th place.
By 500.
Wow, 100th behind Bruce Tasker. So all 3 Canadian sleds are in the top 10 now.
And I don't know if anybody else is going to catch him. But knocked down.
Well, Hefti might. Hefti doesn't like being beat, but then he's 100th behind Tasker, and that will be
next 3 or 4
Chris
sleds only less than a 10th behind. But
yeah,
the Springer, who he's operating about 85–90%. Ooh, look at that pressure on the front runner hitting that sidewall. There's some airborne.
Alex Kopac's his brakeman riding that out nicely.
Kopak says he's in the best shape since last August. There's a lot of wounded people walking around this venue. Hard to come to the World Championships on 100%.
Rico Pater for Switzerland with Thomas Amrine, 400s behind Chris Spring. He and Bert Hefti were tied for 9th after the first heat. Hefti went 10th. Rico Pater got shuffled down to 12th place overnight.
Well, it's 17th, second run.
Yeah.
This isn't tennis, there's no lets. All 4 heats count. Every shot in the golf tournament counts. Every heat here counts. And Rico Peter, who, you know, that's the reckless driver, but you can't get away with it on this track. His speed is going to be suspect. 113.5. It's a kilometer down to the Chris Spring, who just came down, so he's going to have a hard job to chase him down.
Long way shy on pace, still in 12th position, and this is going to leave him vulnerable to attack from behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco, Alexei Stulnev of Russia.
He's really fallen back.
Yeah.
9th best speed. 12th best time, 49.74.
And that is, well, 600s slower than the slowest time we've seen so far, which was teammate Bert Hefti's 49.68. So the Swiss sleds don't seem to be flying for the men the way they were in the women's competition yesterday.
Well, the exit of the S's, and you have to be precise. He was a little flat there, came out early, then one hit leads to another, and then we have some skidding. We have like throwing a parachute out there when you do that.
One hit leads to another is a good thing in the music business, not so much on the bend away. Another big story in our World Championships, in fact in our season this year, has been the progress of this young man. Not the one humping the sled, Max Robert, but the driver, Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco. Look at his brakeman there, Boris Vatt, massaging the sled. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. These guys have had a standout season.
I don't know if anything that Boris can massage. He is a huge man. His hands, ridiculous how big this guy's forearms are. Look at the powerful 240 pounds, jump in and get down, cat-like movements. Yeah. Look at the meat hooks, he just pulls it over the top.
Look, it takes him another 5 seconds to get those shoulders in. He's got to compress his chest so much. Well, a good start from them, 11th fastest start, 4.90. Don't forget, they're only 300s behind Rico Peter, 5 behind Chris Spring.
2004 World Championships here. Monaco had its best ever result. Patrice Serville, Sebastian Gattuso finished 4th. Shocked everybody in the world. Maybe this young Monegasque is pointing to the same type of success. Maybe not this year, but he has really improved.
Yes, he really has. Standout season. This is the 30th anniversary of the foundation of the Monaco Bobsled Federation, and he comes across the line.
Best time.
He's picked up 2 spots.
Bruno Mejean, Max Robert. We were talking to Max last night at dinner.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Rudy Rinaldi, and that's what he's been doing all year.
Not many people are going to go out and get the 7th best time.
Look at him caress the sled. Well done, baby. One more.
Well, the start. Look at the head go back. Look at the size of the brakeman. Yeah. And watch him get in. Now watch him pull up these meat hooks. Look at the size of his arms, okay? You got to get in this little bathtub. He's got to get in, sit down, cat-like movements. And look at the size of the arms. He's got to squeeze himself down in there.
They're in corner 1. He's still trying to wriggle down out of the airflow so he doesn't get critiqued on that. Great run from Monaco. Wow. Well, we knew it was tight behind the top couple of sleds all the way down the top 20. What can Alexei Stulnev do? Stulnev was just 100th of a second behind Rudy Rinaldi. If he continues to be 100th behind, he too will pick off both Swiss sleds of Rico Peter and Bert Hefti, but that's if.
This is a suspect start. You know that
5:01.
Oh, look at the big skid. Oh, bad start, bad skid in the first curve. He's going to lose 2 or 3 places.
They had 497s in both heats yesterday. That was a 5:01.
He might have tried to run too far there. They're just trying to scratch. He finished 4th in this event 3 weeks ago. The other Russian sled coming up, we got a story about why he's in 21st place. The Russian girls yesterday, while they crashed out in the first heat, and then their other sled that was 6th there 3 weeks ago finished in 18th place. A weekend to forget for the Russian team.
Russia are in free fall at the moment. They're making Korea's problems look like chicken feed.
Yeah.
9th fastest time. He's trying to rescue something, but he does not get close. He loses further ground. And that, again, leaves him open to attack from behind, because there's a tie right behind him. Zalims of Latvia and Jong-won only 800s behind. both of them could easily overhaul him.
They're both going to have better starts. They're both going to have better entrances into curve 1.
Well, there's been 2 or 3 brakeman changes, but
he hit the right wall. No one. We've seen nobody do that. How many sleds have we seen in 3 days? Look at Zubkov. Look. What?
Not sure what he said, but I don't think it was good.
Not a very good 72 hours here for the Russians.
No. Well, 4-man week had better be better for them, because boy, they're
right
struggling.
next door. Match TV is right next door. They're shaking their heads too.
All right, well, you know, it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good, and maybe Uge Zalims and Jānis Janssens of Latvia will be able to capitalize. 20th in the first heat, a real throwaway run, and then 6th fastest in the second heat. Zalims underperformed enormously in heat 1 yesterday. Oh, push bar down the wall, and that drags a tiny bit of speed out of the sled. That's 1 step taken out of your run.
The velocity was still decent, but there's something suspect about dragging your push bar down on the wall. But I mean, this is a good driver. This is a guy who's ranked 13 World Cup points, and he missed 2 races in North America. Best finish of the year, 5th in Winterberg, and he did a very good result here a couple weeks ago, 19th. What can we say?
Is this going to be a 20th best run or a 6th best run? Neither at the moment.
Speed.
13th position on the split, and he
picked off
puts off Stulnev. He nearly got Rico Peter. He's 100th behind.
Yeah.
And until the final corner, he was in front of Rico Peter, but just doesn't get by him.
How does all the times they've been down the track and they have a push bar incident like they did? I mean, you know, technology. This is a simple mechanism, a little spring-loaded thing that you hit when you get it in the sled, but sometimes they just don't work. Oh, look at he got out of the start grooves there.
Well, it took Ugis longer than it should have done to settle as well, so he didn't have his hands on the steering. He hadn't hit the bar.
And then he had some skidding.
Well, it made Stulnev's run look tidy, but it still wasn't one that he wanted. Francesco Friedrich, the leader, 15 of our 36 sleds down. Easy for me to say. Next up, Jong-won, tied for 15th with Uge Zalims.
Well, talk about the Russians having some issues. This guy won the race here last February, last event of the year. He won the World Cup title, went out and won a bronze medal in Whistler at the open the season. Since then, he's been in a free fall the wrong direction.
Yeah, I don't know which Jong-won is locked up in a changing room somewhere, but it's been a very different season this year. And again, brand new sleds introduced for the European leg. Hyundai sleds, very different looking, flat, wide, hammerhead sharp look at the front of them. And he clearly has not yet got really on top of how you set this sled up for best handling. It gets good speed numbers down at the bottom, or did yesterday.
It's not too
fastest.
Bad. Track's deteriorating. 16th best time, 16th position. He hasn't moved up anything.
Well, he's lost a lot of ground.
It's just, how do you find a way to win the gold medal 1 year ago, win the World Cup title, come back this next year, 3 weeks before the debut of their track, the World Cup Olympic final or a pre-Olympic event, and to have these type of results? I mean, I know you don't want to peak now, but
well, the simple thing is it's not a simple thing. It's not all kit, it's not all morale. That was a driving error.
Yeah, but there's a lot more than just the equipment, the athletes. There's a lot of negative issues in that Korean program.
Aero, everything. Now in 16th, 17th place overnight was USA's Justin Olsen. Last year's World Championships, he didn't have a berth. He wasn't there wasn't a third US sled. He was the forerunner in Eagles and set some electrifying times. Now he gets the chance again to try and see what he can do. 22nd first heat really put him out of a top 10 spot.
Evan Weinstock at the back, another decathlete, second-ranked decathlete in the field with 7,708 points.
As yesterday, third fastest start in the field on all of their pushes. And Olsen Only 2 years of driving. Now he gets S4 sorted out, gets away down the bend away. I was going to say without a skid, but it broke into a skid.
This is what he did the first run when he finished 22nd. He had the third best start times in both runs, very low in Kreisel. Watch out.
Gets out nicely.
This is, you know, the 22nd best time in the first run, the 8th best time in the second run.
He's up to 12th place on the split times. If he can hold it uphill to the line
Fourth
here,
best time in the
time,
finish.
he could be our biggest climber, and he moves across the line at 13.
Wow.
Picks up 5 spots, Justin Olsen.
Fourth best time of the run coming this late. Wow.
There you go.
So
there's your Heinz ketchup catching up.
Anybody up there thinking the track doesn't have anything left, and he skidded halfway down the straightaway, Justin Olsen. Wow,
yeah,
Justin,
baby.
yeah, we agree, Justin, it's there.
There you go, yeah.
Wow, track still got something left.
Well, the last 2 sleds have come down in 49.95 Olsen and 49.96 Jong-won. So there is a chance to improve. 18th after the first heat. Dominik Dvorak, another of the young drivers who's really stepped out into the spotlight this season in the World Cup. The man from the Czech Republic. 18th overnight after a 19th first heat and only a 15th fastest second heat. He has got potential to improve.
Disappointed yesterday, they only had 49 starts. These guys lit it up last week in Innsbruck when he finished in his 2 weeks ago in Innsbruck. He had his best ever finish, 6th. This is a 10-7 sprinter.
Yep. Well, they start 489, which will be 11th or 12th in the field, maybe.
They were better than that in Innsbruck. And, well, you could say 49 all 3 heats, so there's some good consistency in this team.
But then Justin Olsen in front of him did a 483, and that's 3rd fastest. That's only 600ths of a second difference. It relegates you from the top 3 to way down in the teens.
What was the separation in the women's race yesterday?
300 of a second after 4 runs. Yeah.
I think hundreds are important.
Oh, absolutely. But he's picked up 2 spaces as well. He's in 16th place on the splits. He was 18th overnight. He too is having a good run.
Wow,
13th fastest run. And he moves up to 17th place. So he picks off 1 instead of 2. He gets ahead of Jong-won of Korea. And at the moment,
that should put him in the field.
Last year's World Cup champion, the winner in the World Cup in February on this track, might not make the cut. Because there's a few guys behind him, close behind him, who could get in. Wow, Dominik Dvorak, good run, almost picked off 2, and then lost speed long after these shots down in the labyrinth, but partly as a result of that big hit on that left into Kehlstein.
I don't think there's anybody else going to catch. Well, I think Juan's in.
I'm not sure I'd want to bet. Next up, Poland's Maciej Luty was only 500ths behind Dominik Dvorak. And Jong-won had a very random 3rd heat. I think he might lose another spot to this young Pole. Don't forget, some of these guys had very late start draws. Maciej Luty of Poland, 27th sled on a damp, soft ice track yesterday. Had no real advantage in the first heat. Better ice in the second heat, and he used it to go to 19th place overnight. The
Poles have hired Jānis Minins from Latvia, multiple World Cup winner, and great driver. He's now in charge of the Polish program. I was talking to the Polish group yesterday, and they are excited, and they are out recruiting athletes in Poland. And if you know anything about the Polish market, it's a very large market full of some very great athletes.
15th fastest speed, he's still in 19th place. Can he get to Jong-won of Korea? He does! He does by 100th of a second.
There's going to be one more guy that's going to beat Juan. I bet you Benny Maier comes down here.
Well, Benny Maier could. Alexander Kasjanov is only 100th. Don't forget, Maciej Luty and Benny Maier were tied in 19th. So Maier could easily do it. 100th behind was Kasjanov. He could do it as well. And Kasjanov was 21st overnight, and that would be enough to put last year's race winner and World Cup 2-man champion out.
You're right.
Benny Maier.
He had his finger in my face telling me yesterday, don't count me out.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a bad day for somebody tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll find out. And plus yesterday, what a disastrous start he had. He caught his foot on the D-rings going into the first curve.
28th in the second heat, Benny Maier dropped from 10th in the first run to 19th equal.
Yeah, he could move up 5 places here.
Chatting to his dad over dinner last night, told me a whole bunch of great stories about Benny.
We don't have enough time for all that.
We don't. We might get to some in the final heat. So here we go, Benny Maier trying to move up a couple of spots. Matthias Luty's just done it.
488. That's a little bit better. 486, 491.
Well, that's 900s quicker than Matthias Luty of Poloniato, so he's already up a spot.
Now,
ahead of Jong-won before he even sat down.
And don't forget the fact that 3 weeks ago on this track, Benny Maier won a bronze medal in the two-man competition. Yep. So this is a very capable sled with great speed in Kreisel.
10th in the first run, a throwaway 28th. That's a much better looking run from Benny Maier. He's up to 17th on the splits, ahead of Matthias Luty, Dominic Dvorak. He's closing on Alexei Stulnev. He's picking off Stulnev at the moment.
Wow, 9th best time
He's
at the bottom.
going to 16th place.
Time.
What a run!
There you go, man.
Yes.
Fred, come on. Your son just told us what he was going to do, and he just delivered it.
Yep. I was with his mum and dad last night, and they were telling me of all
7th. With the track the way it is, he gets 7th.
Katrin Beil there, and Christina Hengster, who raced yesterday, helping with the sled. Good start.
Well, Sommers, fantastic athlete. He's a driver. They said, stop driving. We need you as the brakeman for Benny, and wow. And then down here, a little bit of a mistake down here. Still had the 114 speed this late in the heat.
Yep.
To finish 7th.
That's
Benny,
what the cold air is doing.
Benny, you backed up what you said.
20 sleds down, and all the drama now surrounding the teens to the 20s. On the bubble, don't forget, we cut the field to the fastest 20. Matthias Luty of Poland and Jong-won of Korea, separated by a 100th. The remaining couple of sleds that might move in include this man, Alexander Kasjanov. So to reiterate, his race sled was broken in training. He had to take the sled that was crashed in the first heat of the women's race yesterday as his race sled into the two-man competition. So Alexander Kasjanov has a point to prove. 499 start was not great.
This is the 3rd ranked athlete in World Cup two-man points, and he was in 21st place overnight. The Russian misery continues, but he could salvage getting into the final run.
He might make it in.
He's there now.
20th, and Jong-won
oh my God, he's going to eliminate the World Cup champion.
And Kasjanov could make it through, and he has a little rub against the wall up to 19th place.
He's done it.
And he is in 19th place.
Best time. There's the smile from Alexander Zubkov.
Less of a grimace, maybe. Less of a grimace.
It's been a bad Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the Russian bobsled program. But they told me they're going to recover in the team race, and I believe them.
This sled crashed by Nadezhda Sergeva in the first heat of the women's race on Friday. It became his two-man sled.
One is out.
Yep.
I'm shocked.
I'm not.
The World Cup champion
surprised.
is not in the final run. I can't believe it. That's more astonishing to me than the Japanese finishing 7th yesterday in the women's event.
So Alexander Kasjanov, 1 run to go. He's earned himself that. Will he stay in the 20? He should. He's 19th.
There's another Korean.
Well, I don't know if Dong-Young Kim has got what it takes to get into the top 20. 20th place is Matthias Luty of Poland.
He gets better starts than Kasjanov, so...
Yeah, he was 900s behind Luty, so he's got to improve on Luty's
496. That's their worst start of the weekend.
Yep, Luty started 497, so he's 1/100th closer to Matthias Luty.
You're gonna have to see a perfect exit here out of the S's. And so far,
oh, little skiddy.
3, speed 114 to have a chance. 113.3, no speed, no chance.
22nd place at the Kreisel.
No chance.
It's not happening.
there's one other sled that could challenge, but
I
think our field is pretty well set.
Maybe the next two, but they are outside shots. Dong-Yoon Kim of Korea is resigned to joining his teammate Jong-won on the bench. Won and Kim failed to make the cut in the World Championships. They are going to have to turn something around mightily next season to avoid humiliation in Pyeongchang. Wow. Dong-Yoon Kim, 22nd place. Jong-won, 21st place for Korea. And the Korean machine, the wheels have fallen off the wagon. Taps and bangs all the way down the bend away. 20th place is Maciej Luty of Poland. 19th, Alexander Kasjanov. So what can Brad Hall of Great Britain do? Well, let's give an indication of what he might need to do. Benny Maier and Maciej Luty were 1.27 seconds off the lead after 2 heats. He was 1.55. He needs to improve by more than 0.2 of a second with Sam Blanchet, the England and Exeter Chiefs rugby star behind him. For the first time, I think, in this season, Bradley Hall actually gripping the start bar rather than pushing it with the palm of his hand. 4.96 the getaway. He had 2 4.92s yesterday. It's going to be a tough ask to try and get in front of Maciej Luty, but that's what he needs to do to make the final run. 23rd place on the splits, and that's it. All hopes are gone. A late skid from the sled backs him into the Kreisel. 112, not even 113 kilometers an hour. And he's not going to make the final heat. He'll be 23rd at the line. That will leave just the vague hope that the next sled might perhaps make it. Bradley Hall's opportunity to make the final run went away with that big skid. A 50.23 slide. That's the first sled that's not got down inside 50 seconds. Unfortunately, from his start draw of 33rd out of 36, it was always going to be a tough ask. Anybody who starts that far back in the first heat on soft conditions is going to be buried. 24th fastest in the first heat, 22nd in the second. But that late tap with the rear of the sled kicked it into a slide. He was then crossed up going into Jena and onto the Kreisel and had to fight his way to get back on in front of the 8-ball, out of the Kreisel and down the labyrinth. But by that time, the speed was out of the sled. Mark-Louis Francis there in the red top helping. But they will be on the sidelines with the Koreans. And so the last potential for a top 20 will be Nick Cunningham of the USA with Adrian Adams. They were 24th overnight, but they were 0.3 of a second out of the top 20. It seems almost inconceivable that they can find that much more of an advantage.
For 98 start, yesterday they outstarted Holcomb. Today they did not. Holcomb had 96. Their teammates, Olsen has had some incredible 3 heats. Cunningham, the Boise State Cowboy, rodeo rider. Adrian Adams, football player from Reidsville, North Carolina.
He's the reigning North America's Cup champion. He said this season has been one of the most enjoyable in sliding that he can remember. Coming into the World Cup, into the World Championship as the 3rd US sled. Little bumpy labyrinth trip, 12th fastest speed at the bottom. He's picked up 1 spot, but it is 23rd at the line. They too did not manage to find the miracle on ice that they needed, and it would really have had to have been something unbelievable. They needed something like the 4th or 5th fastest time. So that is their 2-man World Championships done. They will compete in the team competition later, I'm sure. And then next weekend, the 4-man bobsleigh, the blue ribbon Formula 1 of ice sliding event.
4-man.
There we go. 25th of 36 sleds in Heat 3 of 4 of the 2-man bobsleigh World Championships, Königssee in Bavaria. This is Maxim Andrianov with Kirill Antuk behind him. Teammate Alexander Kasjanov lies 19th, Alexei Stulnev 17th for Russia. But nothing short of jet-assisted takeoff is going to give Andrianov a chance to make the field. So now it's about trying to overhaul the sleds in front. His closest rival, Nick Cunningham, was only 400s faster in the first heat. The first two heats, rather. 22nd velocity at the start, though. And they started just a fraction slower than Cunningham, so that gap has grown. At the moment, where they started 25th place, they are still 25th as they get to the Kreisel. Good exit down into the labyrinth. Nicely through the Kehlstein curve. And then heading up to the big 180-degree left-hander at Ecovant, climbing uphill, little rub on the wall. That's going to take more speed out of the sled. And at the line, he is still in 25th position, I think. Yeah, Alexander Zubkov can't see the timing either, and nor can we. So, Andrianov, well, what we do know is that he hasn't made the final heat. What we don't know is quite where he hasn't made it. The backup system will hopefully give us a time for that. Again, exit of S4, nice central line down into the bend away. It's like a chicane in motorsport. You look down the straight, you can't see the end of it because the walls come in from the left and then from the right. But Andrianov not going to make it through today. That yellow visor to cut down the glare is certainly going to help. '26 after two runs down this Königssee track is Dutchman Ivo de Bruin. Your own pick was a brakeman with the team up to the selection for the 2014 games in Sochi. He didn't make the team and then stepped away to rejoin real life. Coach Tom Delahunty at the back of the shot there with the sled 2 weeks ago persuaded your own to come back to the sport where he started off as a brakeman for Edwin van Kalker. And there is a delay at the top of the track. We have a problem with the timing system. Big crowd here. They say quite often that if it's a sunny morning, the crowd is not as big as what it might be because some of them decide to go off skiing, but for the World Championships here in Königssee, there is always a big and boisterous crowd on hand. Utterly unrelated, I'm sure, to the presence of Glühwein stands nearby. See some of our athletes down to the left-hand side of your picture in the red hat, the Swiss girls. That's the twins, Ralham and Evelyn Rabsemen, who were braking in the two Swiss sleds yesterday. Friend the DJ down at the bottom in his traditional Kurzhosen, summer lederhosen, getting the music going and keeping the crowd entertained. And for Ivo de Bruin at the top of the track, a disappointing delay. Athletes spend their time tailoring their pre-race to a minute by minute, which will bring them up to the ice box for a minute before they then take the sled to the line. Of course, they're stripped down to their lycra. It's probably still -2 or -3 in the shadows at the top of the track, stood on the ice. So now they'll get their warm clothing back on and have to try and keep the heat in the muscles. And there you can see the Glühwein stands beside the track. The power band is right behind our back door of our commentary position, waiting to break into life. And a stunning vista, this deep valley that at its heart has the Königssee, the Royal Lake, which is the clearest natural lake in Germany. One of several thousand natural lakes around here. Chiemsee, of course, just up by Ruhpolding, the big biathlon centre. And just over the mountains behind us, if you flew like the police helicopter did this morning in over the Grünstein, if you went the opposite direction, about a 15-minute flight away, you would be at the Biathlon World Championships over the hill in Austria. Hill, mountain, whatever. Well, Lots of fans here for Francesco Friedrich, of course, for Johannes Lochner as well. His fan club and the Solitude Bob Club are all here in force. An awful lot of Berchtesgadeners will be hoping that he can produce at least the medal that he's got at the moment, or the position he's in at the moment, in the bronze medal spot. I'm going to give John Morgan a bit of a respite. He's struggling with a filthy cold at the moment, so he can go out and get a bit of fresh air. And we will wait for the Swiss timing guys to get their clocks reset and to track where the delay has come. We do have a final time given for Maxim Andrianov. Total gap, he's 2.28 behind his total time for the 3 runs, 2 minutes 30.05. So it is possible that he actually picked off Brad Hall for 24th spot. That's certainly the way that it looks. We'll wait for confirmation of that.
So we'll have 4 runs.
So on the left-hand side of us, casting its shadow over the track, is the Watzmann Mountain, the one you can see right in front of you. That is Grünstein, green rock, green stone. And as you can see, covered in a lot of moss and lichen on its northern face. The reason tracks are built down the side of the north face of a mountain is because it's permanently in shadow, and that helps tracks stop melting away. And when all tracks were natural, as this track was up until 1968, hand-built from the ice the same way that St. Moritz is, then that's the way it would have run. Now, to ensure that the timing system is working before anybody else goes down, they are going to send down a forerunner. There's the Chinese girls who raced yesterday in the World Championship for the first time. And really interesting to see their progress and how well they fared, given that they only started driving 12 months ago. Manny Mahat has done a really solid job with that team, and they still have a dozen or so drivers, men and women, testing back in North America where they're based. The Chinese girls, first time in the leaders box, seeing themselves on television, brought huge smiles and laughter from them, and the whole thing, I mean, they're taking pictures all over the place. There's the twin sisters, Rahel and Evelyn. Peas from a pod. And in fact, Sabina Hafner was telling us that she too is a twin, a non-identical twin, but the Swiss brake women are identical twin sisters. Must catch up with them and find out which is the older, because otherwise that'll be bugging me for the next several years. We're waiting for our pilot sled to go down, the spur sled, and that will just check that all the timing eyes are working. And one of the other delights of coming to a bobsleigh track is the chance to go down in a taxi bob. And if you ever get the chance to come to a bobsleigh track, I can't recommend it enough. It's an entirely different experience, unless you've been in an aerobatic stunt plane, to anything else you've ever done. Everybody's used to G-forces in a car being lateral from side to side as you corner. There's the pilot sled coming down, driven by one of the Königssee track junior drivers. In fact, a lot of the forerunners in competitions like this are often race winners at the Europa Cup level or North America's Cup level at the second tier of sliding. So checking that everything is working. Crowd meanwhile enjoying the sunshine. The umpire band, fortunately, keeping everything bottled up tight, keeping their powder dry until the break between the runs. This was a big field of 36 sleds. 10-minute delay is just going to bring us very much closer to the second heat by the time we get to the end of the first one. Fourth heat sled. First sled should be on ice at 12:04 local time. It is now 11:30 local time, and we've had 25 of 36 sleds down at a 2-minute interval. Remaining 11 sleds will take 22 minutes, so there is likely to be a less than 5-minute break between the end of the first, the third heat, and the beginning of the fourth. So the forerunner has gone down. And now Ivo de Bruin sled. The yellow nose you saw behind will be the next sled on the ice after the Dutch. And that is the junior world champion, Richard Oelsner. There's Tom Delahunty, formerly coached the British, then the Dutch, then the Canadians, now back with the Netherlands. Just to reiterate, after 3 heats of 4, Francesco Friedrich with better than a 3/4 of a second lead. But some very close battles behind. Melbardis and Holcomb tied for 6th position. Look at this, just a few hundreds either way. Rudy Rinaldi, what a run he had, up to 11th. Justin Olsen up to 13th place. He made a big step up as well from 17th overnight. Lenny Maier moving into 16th position from the tie for 19th place. Jong-won and Dong-Yoon Kim of Korea both missing the cut. So too has Nick Cunningham. Maxim Andrianov confirmed as 23rd, ahead of Brad Hall of Great Britain. And the British sled in 25th place might just fall victim to Ivo de Bruin. De Bruin was only 1500ths behind him. 25th in the first heat, 27th in the second heat. So Ivo locks the start bar in position. Brakeman Jeroen Peek. Ivo's wife Christine competing for Canada in the women's race over the last couple of days as well. Real family affair for the pair that now call Calgary and Alberta their home. .502 and a 5 flat pair of starts. This duo have not raced together before. And a 4.99, the best start of the competition. They're starting to gel a little bit. And more time on ice can only help that. So De Bruin, 26th position after the first 2 heats. Needs a good run down the straight here to the Kreisel. Takes the standard 2 hits into the left-hander at Jena and then on to the Kreisel. They try and keep a relatively constant line through there. And then straight out down the middle, bumps off into the Kehlstein curve. That takes speed out of the sled. Still 26th on the splits. This is not going to bring him. Yes, it does. Now 25th place ahead of Brad Hall of Great Britain. He moves up a spot by 400ths of a second in front of Bradley Hall of Great Britain. The 50.04 run compared to the 50.23 of the British sled. So he moves up a spot. The long wait didn't distract him. Best start of the competition for the trio. And they will go again, I'm sure, in the 4-man competition next weekend. Not sure if the Dutch have got any presence in the team competition. There's a number of international teams made up from various different nations. So Ivo de Bruin, Jeroen Peek for the Netherlands, and away goes Richard Oelsner. Fast off the start for him and Alexander Schuler. Oelsner now double junior world champion, 22 years old, the same age that Francesco Friedrich was when he got a free entry into the World Championships in St. Moritz in 2012 and claimed his first senior World Championship title at 22 years of age, the youngest ever then. Richard Oelsner not going to do that here today. 19-year-old Alexander Schuler behind him, his first World Championships at the senior level. Oelsner got the bye in at Eagles last year. Finished in 9th place. This a very different race for him, unfortunately. He's nearly 20 spots shy of that. Up to 24th place, though, off 27th start, using his knowledge of the track to move up into, well, 25th position behind the tie. Cunningham and Andrianov tied for 23rd. Richard Oelsner in 25th position. The 49.88 slide.
Hier in der deutschen Post-Eis-Arena Königssee. Und wir alle wissen, es geht.
So Richard Oelsner will finish inside in around 25th place, but that's pretty much a carbon copy of his runs so far. He's had a problem on that straight every single one. 28th fastest, 25th fastest, and that was the 22nd fastest run. So he's got better, but he has still not managed to iron out that problem. Like Costerg this morning, walking up the track with his coach there in the red trousers, Bruno Mijon, looked very happy and relaxed. And he's looking forward to the four-man competition, no question. Vincent Castel behind him. Costerg just 200ths of a second behind Richard Oelsner of Germany overnight. So he too has a chance to move up. Let's see if he can produce what he needs. 5.02, well, that's the least speedy of their three getaways. Now not going to make a fourth and final heat, and I'm sure in a field this deep he probably expected that. Oh, little twitch of the D-rings to try and straighten out the slide. Damage was done though. Speed 113 kilometers an hour, just 70.2 miles an hour. Fastest legs there at 72.0. A long way shy on pace. He's not going to follow Richard Oelsner up the order. Oh no, I take that back, he might be. 26th position out of the labyrinth, and across the line he does exactly that. Follows Richard Oelsner ahead of Ivo de Bruin, and Bradley Hall's dramatic third run sees him in free fall down the 20s. Bradley Hall 23rd overnight, now down 5 spots to 28th. And the damage might not be done yet. So Lloyd Costerg, this slide, gets a full handful of opposite lock there. And big twitch, Bruno Mijon. But he still moved up 3 spots. And the four-man is going to be definitely the one that he's looking forward to. Simone Bertazzo last year withdrew from the two-man World Championships and Eagles after the first day. This week, a little healthier than he had been last season. Mattia Variola behind him, his young brakeman. Still not getting the starts he needs. Third out of the start draw. Simone Bertazzo, the 34-year-old. Bronze in the two-man World Championships back in 2007. St-Moritz, where he has enough ice to play with, and then he still had the speed to play with, but a decade on from that, doesn't have the speed at the start. A 5.04, the 29th start out of 29 sleds. That consigns him to the field of also-rans. Now with Brad Hall's disappointing run, he might move up a spot at the expense of the British sled. He's 28th in the speed traps, 28th on the split times, and he does not pick off the British sled. So Brad Hall, it looks as though his plummet down the order stops at 28th place. Simone Bertazzo comes across the line in 29th spot, a 50.18 slide. And that is very likely the last time we will see Simone Bertazzo in two-man World Championship action. Can't imagine how or why he would think continuing after Korea would be a good idea. 34 years of age. A decade ago, a generation ago, he'd have been in his prime, but now there's too many fast young men out there. Jan Vrba of the Czech Republic with Dominik Suchy behind him. Teammate Dominik Dvorak and Jakub Nosek in 18th position. And a full dozen spots further back. In 30th place overnight, Jan Vrba. Very much more of a four-man driver. 4.99 getaway. Well, how far behind Simone Bertazzo was he? 1400ths of a second. Outstarted Bertazzo by 500, so he only has to find another 10th. He could pick off the Italian. Ooh. Must stop saying things like that, mustn't I? That clearly made him break into a skid. 1:13.5, good speed for this end of the field. Track is holding up well. But Right, none of these guys are down in the late 20s by accident. Jan Vrba, 29th, up to 28th, so he's ahead of Bradley Hall and Simone Bertazzo, and at the line, he slips back to 29th. So doesn't pick off Hall, but does pick off Bertazzo, picks up one, as his two-man World Championships comes to an end. Again, Jan Vrba, 35 years old. That might be his last drive in a two-man World Championships as well. Just to underline, next season, no World Championships. It will be the Winter Olympic Games in Pyeongchang in Korea happening this time. And that might be the swan song in terms of World Championship two-man drives for Jan Vrba from the Czech Republic. Entertaining battle shaping up at the top of the table. Fifth and tied for sixth, covered by 200ths of a second. Now in a borrowed sled, Austria's Markus Treichel, and a change of brakeman overnight as well. Franz Esterhammer not fit to go on the second day of competition. And so Markus Gluck is on the back of the sled. 4:96 getaway, that's the fastest that Treichel has had in the competition. Well, he was only 100th behind Jan Vrba after the first two heats. So he too has a chance of picking up a spot, or maybe even two. And it would be an irony if a sled borrowed from the Brits allows Markus Treichel to overhaul British slider Brad Hall. At the moment, he's in 29th on the split times, ahead of Simone Bertazzo. Up to 28th ahead of Jan Vrba, the man he tailed by 100th after the first heat. And at the line, he's in 29th. Behind Brad Hall, but ahead of Jan Vrba and Simone Bertazzo. So he picks off two and moves up the order a couple of spots to end his two-man World Championships. Sana Decker down at the bottom, enjoying the sunshine and helping with the sleds. And Katrin Weil in the glasses, who also drove the Austrian sleds yesterday in the women's competition. While the much more fancied top two drivers from Korea have failed to make the cut. And Jung Jin-suk in his first World Championships, his first international appearance as a driver in two-man. He's had one World Cup start, that was in a four-man sled. And so Suk was not expected to trouble the top 20 for him. This is about gaining experience in the, what might now seem slight, hopeful assumption that Korea will get three good, strong sleds into the games next year. They'll have a three-sled entry. What position they'll be in remains to be seen. He too does not have one of the new Hyundai sleds, so he's in one of the PTC Hyundai mishmashes or amalgams that they've been using to very good effect, it has to be said, for the last season. The last two. 32nd after the first day of competition. The man that he's looking to try and pick off, Simone Bertazzo, was 1500ths of a second quicker than him over two runs. Oop, little tap off the wall. And I don't think Suk is going to pick him off. He doesn't. 29th fastest run, but not enough to overhaul Bertazzo. Bertazzo hangs on by 300ths ahead of the Korean. So Korea's finishing order for their three sleds: Suk in 32nd, Kim in 22nd, and Won in 21st. And the Russians think they've got problems. Well, nothing hugely dramatic to write home about in terms of major errors. That little dink on the wall, climbing the hill, that was always going to cost him time, but Suk very inexperienced in terms of driving still compared to his teammates. Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, lying in 33rd place after the first day of competition in his two-man bobsleigh World Championships. And his experienced teammate Simone Bertazzo was 29th, has lost a couple of spots. Baumgartner, I think, is not going to trouble his teammate He was the better part of a third of a second behind overnight. 5:08 getaway was a little slower than they managed in the first air competition. Gets it corrected out of S4 onto the bend away. Nice line into the Jena curve and onto the Kreisel. Keeps it low. And gets the pressure nicely controlled out of the Kreisel as well, but having to cut a little too much ice, maybe a little too much driving going on. He's not going to catch the Korean unless he dips for the line. A big skid there. He has moved up into 32nd, but a skid at the bottom of the track costs him, and he doesn't quite get to the Korean sled. 33rd at the line to complete his World Championship adventure here in the two-man in Königssee. So Patrick Baumgartner with Konstantino Ugi. Here we are in the Echo Vant, and late height. He draws it down smoothly, but the pressure is still there and causes the sled to skid away behind him. 3 to go, and the youngest driver in the field is our 18-year-old rookie, Maier Tentea from Romania. He's never started a World Cup race. He was the Youth Olympic Games 4th position driver in the boys monobob last February in Lillehammer. He won a couple of races in the Omega Youth Series and started driving 2-seater bobsleds this season, 2- and 4-man sleds. In fact, he was 15th in the 2-man, 11th in the 4-man in the Junior Worlds just a couple of weeks ago in Winterberg, Germany. This is his first year driving fully weighted bobsleds. So Maier Tentea makes the World Championships at the end of season 1. And actually, his lines have looked nice. He hasn't got the speed at the start. He hasn't got the fastest sled in the competition by some margin either. You've got to learn somewhere, and this is where he starts with a 5-0 getaway with the 3-time Olympian brakeman behind him, Florent Krasjian. This is a really good effort. First time we've seen this man, 18 years old, first time we've seen this kid on television. And he crosses the line in 31st place, with the 31st fastest run rather, so he remains in 34th position. That was a good-looking run from him. And again, I think this young man might have a lot of potential. Just 18 years old, he doesn't look much more than 14 or 15. Oh, good run down the bend away, little late skid, but we've seen a lot worse from a lot more experienced drivers. Early height as he gets onto Echo Vant, and then he has to steer to get the line in the second pressure, and that gives him a little skid uphill towards the line. 2 to go, Vuk Radenovic, and change of brakeman, Miroslav Nokavic on the back of the sled. His brakeman from yesterday, Stefan Vujanic, with the huge shoulders that he couldn't get into the sled. He's obviously not been fit enough to go this morning. So Miroslav Novakic on the back with Radenovic. Radenovic now 33 years old. Again, a 2-time Olympian. Be surprised. Ooh! Now that we saw from Alexei Stulnev. Little drift out to the driver's right, hits the wall, and then gets crossed up going into turn 1. Surprised if we see Vuk Radenovic competing again after the games in Korea. His father Boris was a bobsledder in his time, and now coaches the Serbian team. Boris in Sarajevo, 113.4 kilometers an hour is not bad speed. 1.5 miles away from the fastest. Is he going to catch the Romanian in front of him? Opposite ends of the experience gap. 34-year-old Serbian, 35th fastest run. He doesn't get 18-year-old Maier Tentea. So the Serbian adventure in the 2-man bobsleigh World Championships finishes. And their start a 5.16. They had a 5.06, 5.08 yesterday, so Vuk missing the power of Stefan Vujanic behind him. Miroslav Novakic off the bench overnight. And that dink on the right-hand wall, which pitches you sideways into turn 1, really hurt their speed early on. So the final sled, Drazen Silic and Mate Metsilic from Croatia, the part-time team. They come with their sled not in a van, but on a trailer. They're so old school. 31-year-old school teacher Drazen, 35-year-old engineer Mate, his brakeman. Drazen Silic full of smiles this morning. Like everybody else, they're in this sport for the love, not the money. These guys just wear their heart on their red and white checkered sleeves, having every minute of their trip in the World Championship. 36 of the 36 sleds in the start draw. That is a position they've inhabited all the way down. Not a bad run down the bend away. 1:11.8. Doesn't have any speed at all. 69.5 miles an hour. Again, we're saying that's slow on sheet ice. Still more than fast enough for the average pedestrian. But in terms of competition, they're going to need to find a little more of everything to try and claw their way up the order. And he crosses the line to finish Croatia's adventure in this World Championships with a 51.09. And he will be in 36th spot, and he will be smiling almost as much as if he'd been in the top 3. Congratulations to them and to everybody else for making it down safely. Not a bad looking exit there, carries the speed as much as he can uphill. Little skid, late pressure and a rub on the wall. And across the line, and that rounds out the third and penultimate heat of the two-man World Championship. Drazen Silic, good job, my friend. Well, there were surprises down the order, but none on the top of the pyramid. Francesco Friedrich and Torsten Margis had this race in a headlock overnight, and they have only served to tighten their grip on the Max Huben Trophy for the two-man World Champions. 3 consecutive World Championship titles under their belts, and the 4th is just a minute and a half away from them. They will go last in our final heat as they top the times by more than 3/4 of a second. And it's hard to see anything barring disaster really affecting the top 3, but behind, look at what is going on in the rest of the top 10. Oscar's Kebermanis definitely not safe in 4th, from Poloniato behind him. From Stephen Holcomb, Oscar's Malbardis, Nico Walther, Bruce Tasker, Chris Spring, so many tight battles. 100th, 100th, 400s, 300s. And it's just insane all the way down. And Matthias Luty will be the first man off. 20th place, that's where the cut is. Not one of the 3 Korean sleds. Race winner last year, Jong-won, World Cup champion in two-man at Jong-won, did not make it into the final heat in any way, shape or form. So, a bright, sunny and dramatic day already. Moving day. The 3rd heat has done what it set out to do. It has given us our favourites and produced plenty of excitement. We will be back with the 4th and final heat at midday Central European Time, 11 Greenwich Mean Time, in 7 minutes from now. Don't go away. Stay with us for all the action here in Königssee.